Namaste, good morning. I am Preeti. I completed my BSc from the Government PG College, Sector 14, Karnal. My Masters and Doctorate from the Department of Botany, Kurukshetra University, Kurukshetra. And I taught for 2 to 3 years in the Department of Botany in the Government PG College, Sector 14, Karnal. So today I'm trying to clear a concept that is the cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So let us start our today's topic, that is cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Before starting this topic, we have some brief idea about what is photosynthesis. So let me introduce the concept of what is photosynthesis. So what is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is an enzyme regulated because various enzymes which are involved to produce the particular product of the photosynthesis. So anabolic reaction. Why it is anabolic reaction? Because something is formed. So what is formed? That is the organic compound. Organic compound. But by using what? This organic compound is produced. This organic compound is produced from the inorganic material. Inorganic material. So this inorganic material produce organic compound in the form of glucose. So something is formed. Such reactions in which something is formed, that is known as anabolic reaction. So photosynthesis is an anabolic reaction. The second one is redox reaction. Redox reaction is what? That is the redox means reduction and oxidation. So oxidation and reduction. In oxidation, that is photolysis of water. Product of photolysis of water are electrons which travel through the electron transport chain. Then the second is proton and the third one is oxygen. These two main, the one is glucose and the second one is oxygen. These are two main products of the photosynthesis. So oxygen is liberated into the atmosphere. The next one, it is the physico-chemical process. Why it is physico-chemical? Because during this reaction, when this reaction takes place, light energy is trapped. Light energy is being converted into the chemical energy. That's why it is called as the physico-chemical process. So overall, photosynthesis is an enzyme regulated anabolic redox and physico-chemical reaction which performs in the presence of sunlight to produce some organic compound. This is the reaction of the photosynthesis where 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 12 molecules of the water which get trapped into the photosystem and then which produce a single molecule of glucose in the presence of sunlight, in the presence of some enzymes, and due to a pigment that is called as chlorophyll, which is found in the chloroplast. So 6 molecule of carbon dioxide when produce this 1 molecule of glucose, so it requires energy in two form. One is the radiant energy, which is the sunlight, and the second form of energy, that is the chemical energy, that is in the form of ATP and NADPH. This particular form of energy is produced in the presence of sunlight in the light phase of the photosynthesis, and this energy is utilized to produce glucose. But how many ATP and how many NADPH is required to produce single molecule of glucose? There are 18 ATP is required and 12 NADPH. This is the cost of energy which is required to produce this single molecule of glucose. But from where this energy comes? So to produce this phosphate containing compound which is a high energy rich. So this two reaction, the one is cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation takes place. We talk about the site of photosynthesis. Definitely it is about the chloroplast. In the green plants, this organelle performed this reaction that is called as photosynthesis. So where in this organelle, within the organelle, particular membranous structure which perform this reaction, that is known as thylakoid. This is known as thylakoid, which is also known as grana. This exposed part, which is exposed part, this is known as non-appressed part. Non-appressed part of thylakoid, and which is present in between this stacked part, that is known as oppressed part. Oppressed part. So this is the site where the light reaction takes place. Here in this chamber, on the membrane of this chamber, that is the light reaction takes place. Light reaction takes place. So during the light reaction, what happens actually? First is the photolysis of water. But before photolysis of water, the sunlight is absorbed by the membrane of this particular structure, that is called thylakoid. So here this is the photon of energy, that is the radiant energy which is absorbed, which is trapped by this particular structure, that is known as thylakoid. Then after the absorption of light, photolysis of water occurs, where the oxygen is produced, and from here oxygen is liberated into the atmosphere, and the one more product is released, that is the ATP and NADPH, which is produced during the light reaction, and which is used by the dark phase of photosynthesis. So whose product is glucose. So glucose is the product of dark phase, where carbon dioxide gets incorporated into the system. Here that is the light which get incorporated, and with the help of the 12 molecule of water, oxygen is produced. Final product of the light reaction, that is ATP and NADPH, which are phosphate containing compound, high energy rich compound. So that's why this reaction is called as photophosphorylation. Photosynthesis occurs in two phases. One is light phase, in the presence of light. The second one is the dark phase, which utilize the product of the light phase. The pigments of the photosynthesis are chlorophyll, second one is carotenoid, phycobilin. So these three pigments, which are found on the membrane of the thylakoids, which perform the trapping system for the sunlight to perform this process, that is called as photosynthesis. So chlorophyll, carotenoid and phycobilin. Chlorophyll are of five types, that is A, B, C, D and E. It gives various shades of the green color, while these carotenoids give variety of colors, like in tomato lycopene is found, and in carrot. So these are mainly the precursor of the vitamin A and various type of vitamins. So the phycobilin are mainly present in the algal system. So these phycobilins are mainly of two types, that is phycocyanin, which produce green color in the blue-green algae, and phycoerythrin, which is found in the red algae. So the system, that is the pigment, these pigments form in light harvesting complex, which is further has two components. The one is accessory pigment and the second one is reaction center. Firstly, we are talking about the accessory pigment. So what is the function of accessory pigment? Its function is to trap sunlight in the form of photon, in the form of wavelength. So they trap sunlight and then transfer that heat after excitation of the molecule. So after excitation of molecule, so they transfer their electrons or their protons to the next level. So these are the accessory pigments, which are the carotenoids. These are made up of carotenoids plus phycobilins plus chlorophyll B, C, D and E, except chlorophyll A, which is known as reaction center of the photosystems. And there are two photosystems which are found in the chloroplast or the thylakoid membrane. So these are the photosystem 1 and the photosystem 2. This chlorophyll absorbs two wavelengths of light, that is at the 680 nm. If it absorbs light at 680 nm, then it is the photosystem 2, and if it is present, if it absorbs the 700 nm, then it is called as photosystem 1. We will talk about the three main phase further, which is the part of the light phase. So first we will talk about the non-cyclic. non-cyclic phase, non-cyclic phase. Second, we will talk about the cyclic phase, and the third one is the part that is known as chemi-osmotic theory. So this is the reaction which takes place during the cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So this is the sunlight which get trapped by the accessory pigments, and after absorbing this light, here this is the photolysis of water. Here it is the photolysis of water, and where the oxygen is liberated. This oxygen is liberated into the atmosphere. After taking electrons from this photolysis of water and protons from the photolysis of water, so this chlorophyll A, which absorb light at the 680 nm, which is called as photosystem 2, get excited, and then it transfer its electron to the pheophytin, plastoquinone, plastohydroquinone, then to the cytochrome B6F, plastocyanin. Then this is the photosystem 1. After getting electron from the photosystem 1 through a stepwise manner, photosystem 1 get excited, and then it transfer electron to the an unknown acceptor. It has two pathways. Either it goes to the unknown acceptor, then second A1, A2, A3, and then finally ferredoxin reductase. Ferredoxin reductase actually reduce this NADP into the NADPH. So this is the product of this NADPH is the product of a non-cyclic photophosphorylation. And then if this pathway takes place, this is like in the Z fashion. This occurs in the Z fashion. That's why it's named as the Z scheme, which was given by the Hills and Bandal in 1960. So if it take a backward step, so it transfer its electron to the iron sulfide containing compound, then it transfer electron to the ferredoxin, where the ATP is produced. And then further transfer its electron to the cytochrome B6F and plastocyanin, again photosystem 1. So this phase is known as only this phase. If only PS1 is involved, then it is called as cyclic photophosphorylation. If it occurs in the Z scheme, then it is known as non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So this is the photophosphorylation whose product is NADPH and ATP. Finally, we came on the last phase of the cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation, that is called as chemi-osmotic theory, which was given by Peter Mitchell, who describe how the phosphate containing compound is produced. So on the membrane of the thylakoid, here the sunlight came and get trapped by the photosystem 2, and this photosystem then get excited, its chlorophyll pigment, then transfer its electron to the plastoquinone, which get reduced into the plastohydroquinone, which in the cyclic manner came back. Then this step occurs cyclic wise. Then these electrons is transferred to the cytochrome B6F, then which further transfer electron to the plastocyanin, which further transfer electron to the photosystem 1, which various electron acceptor are involved, and then finally the ferredoxin reductase enzyme, which reduce NADP into the NADPH. This is the first phosphate containing compound through the non-cyclic pathway. It is produced, and when the light energy is trapped here, the photolysis of water occur. Here the photolysis of water occur, where half molecule of oxygen is produced. I already told you that oxygen is liberated into the atmosphere. The second one is proton is liberated. So it means that when this is the lumen of the thylakoid, this is the lumen of thylakoid. highly cold. So this is because high proton concentration is there. High proton concentration is there. But in the stroma of the chloroplast, low concentration of the proton is there. So due to this pH difference, due to the this proton gradient motive force generated, which helps in the production of the proton movement from the higher concentration to the lower concentration, and due to which this ATP synthase work, which is known as H plus ATPase synthase. So when it works, so ADP plus inorganic phosphate get incorporated and produce ATP. So 2-phosphate containing compound is produced. From where this energy come to produce this energy rich compound? One is from the sunlight and the second one is due to the proton motive force. So ultimately we found the product of the non-cyclic and the cyclic photophosphorylation. So the products of the light phase, that are ATP and NADPH, both they are used to produce single molecule of glucose. But how? That is because of dark phase. Dark phase, which is also called as C3 cycle, which was described by the Melvin Calvin, due to which its name is also Calvin cycle. So during the dark phase, what happens actually, the one molecule of carbon dioxide get converted into the single molecule of glucose, but there are various steps which are required in between. So first step, that when carbon dioxide get trapped into the system, here is RUBP, which is also called as the ribulose bisphosphate. So it also get incorporated at the first step and to produce 3-phosphoglycerate. When the incorporation of the carbon dioxide, so this step is known as carboxylation phase. This is also called as carboxylation phase. So when the 3-phosphoglycerate gets converted into the next step, that is known as glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate or dihydroxyacetone phosphate, which further get converted into this one molecule of glucose. So the second step, when 3-phosphoglycerate is converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, this step is known as reduction phase. This is called as reduction phase. And the last one step, when the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and DHAP, that is back converted into the RUBP, which is ribulose bisphosphate, that step is known as regeneration step. So during reduction phase, what happens here? 2 molecule of ATP and 2 molecule of NADPH is used. Here at the regeneration step, how many? Only single ATP is required. So single molecule of ATP is required. So according to this, a total, because here glucose is a 6-carbon compound, while this is single carbon dioxide, so incorporation of 6 carbon dioxide is required, is must. So to produce 6-carbon compound, it is necessary to make 6 turn of Calvin cycle to produce this 6-carbon compound, which is glucose. So when the total ATP, total cost of reaction, which is called as dark phase, so its cost is, here is 2 ATP, because 6 carbon dioxide is required. So 6 into 2 ATP is in the reduction phase, 1 ATP in the regeneration phase, yani 6 into 3 total 18 ATP is required. Here is 2 NADPH, so 6 into 2 means 12 NADPH is required to produce single molecule of glucose from the 6 molecule of the carbon dioxide. So these are some questions which came into the last few years in the competitive exam from this topic. That is, the reaction center of the photosystem 1 and photosystem 2 is dash and dash. So reaction center of photosystem 1, that is 700 nm, and the second one is 680 nm. The second one is the number of ATP and NADPH used to produce the single molecule of glucose. As I discussed already, that a single molecule of glucose is produced from the 6 molecule of the carbon dioxide, and when single molecule of carbon dioxide get incorporated into the system, so 6 turn are required, 6 turn of Calvin cycle is required to produce a single molecule of glucose. So here these are the 4 options are given, where the only one is right, that is the 18 and 12 respectively. Now the sequence of the Z scheme, to opt a particular and correct sequence, you have to know what is non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So this is photosystem 2 to pheophytin prostacyanine 1 and NADPH. This is the correct, and the father of the plant physiology, that is the Stephen Hales. This is the correct answer. So these are some questions which came in the last few years. Thank you so much.